Putin is about the rise of Vladimir Putin, I think, and it also has to do with an imaginary child who tells him to do bad things that might be Satan, but also has a history with the younger Vladimir Putin. And there's also an imaginary woman who is slightly less evil and Vladimir Putin has never met before, at least in the film, and it also takes place in the near future at times. Yeah, I have no idea what I watched. I missed this movie in theaters, but it was on my watch list simply because of how many people hated this movie. I read no reviews of it, but I just saw every single 1-star, every single half-star review of it, and I was like, okay, I need to watch this. So I waited until it was on Amazon Prime. I watched it for $4. Oh my god! This is one of the most incompetent, incoherent films I've ever seen. What the hell? I paused this movie 5 times while watching it. I paused it 5 times and just paced back and forth in my own room, thinking to myself, why am I watching it? Why am I still watching it? If I just stopped right now, no one would know, except for the fact that I would know. So I sat through all 109 minutes of this film, and it pained me to my core with every single second. Let's begin with just how awful this movie is in every single aspect. First of all, the visuals. This is one of the most ugly movies I have ever seen in my entire life. Every single shot in this film has some sort of rapid-fire zoom-in, zoom-out technique that makes 24 cinematography look tame by comparison. And the color correction in this film makes absolutely no sense. Some of it is oversaturated, some of it is black and white, and it makes no sense in terms of the time continuity of this film. And I say that because this movie loves to jump around in time a lot. And most of the time, it makes no sense why they're doing it. If they just told the story of Vladimir Putin from beginning to supposed end, it would make so much more sense than whatever the hell this movie was trying to do. Because it has this false sense that it is so smart and so sophisticated and so deep, when in reality, it's just kind of insane for the purpose of being insane. Let's talk about the acting in this film. This film has some of the worst performances I've seen in so long. There were so many times in this film where I was trying to read the lips because the dialogue is so bad that I thought for sure that it was dubbing. And this film was originally in a different language other than English. But as I watched carefully, I realized something. Everyone was speaking English. Everyone was speaking English. It's just that the fact that the performances are that bad. It's so bad that I thought it was dubbing dialogue! And I actually found it hilarious, the fact that every single person in this movie is supposed to be Russian, but none of them sound Russian. They all sound American, British, or some variation of European that is trying desperately to do a Russian accent. And just in terms of pure story, pure metaphorical story that this movie's trying to do, Jesus Christ! When I say every single moment of this film was painful, it was not only painful for my very being, it was painful for my sanity. Because there's so much of this film that even though it's supposed to be about the rise of Vladimir Putin, just wanders off into random different directions. There's an entire scene in Chernobyl where the imaginary friends of Vladimir Putin are talking to each other. And we never see him until the very last scene in that segment where he's supposed to be one of the soldiers who just arrived there. There is a moment in this film where Vladimir Putin is gathering allies, and how does he do this? He plays paintball with them by shooting at Playboy bunnies. What? Even if that did happen, just... what? And in terms of the characters in this film... Oh no. Oh my god. Look, if we just saw behind closed doors of what Vladimir Putin's upbringing was and what brought him to where we see him now, I would find that extremely interesting. But here's the thing. We never get to see his psychology behind why he does everything. We never really see his psychosis behind every single one of his actions. The most drama we get out of Vladimir Putin's character is the fact that he was never baptized. That's it. And even that drama is handled in like 3 separate scenes. And then it's done. Really? There is just so much madness in this film. So much insanity. So many times where I honestly looked at the screen and said, why is this happening? Why do we need to see this happen? What does this tell us about the rise of Vladimir Putin? What does this tell us about his psychosis? What do any of these imaginary people that we constantly see in these scenes have anything to do with Vladimir Putin? What? I ask you, what? Is there anything of redeeming value in this film? I will give credit where credit is due. The actor who played Vladimir Putin looks alarmingly exactly like the real man. It's actually kind of scary how much he looks like him. But at the same time, man, his performance is awful. But I can't really blame him because everyone in this movie gives awful performances. I mentioned in my review of In the Lost Lands that I was almost going to give that movie a D- because earlier that week, I saw a movie that was so much worse. As you may have figured out by now, this is that much worse film. If In the Lost Lands is one of the worst action movies I've ever seen, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, period. I am baffled by every single creative choice in this film. I am baffled by how awful the performances are, how awful the cinematography is, how ludicrous the story is, and how arrogant the film feels that it thinks it's so smart, that it's saying so much about Vladimir Putin, when at the end of the day, its biggest contribution is that, brace yourself, Vladimir Putin might be bad. This is one of the most incompetent, incoherent, and frustrating films I have ever had to sit through, and obviously, and for good reason, Putin gets an F. 2 Fs in 1 week. Yay! Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys really are the best, and hopefully coming soon, we will get much better films. Until then, please click subscribe and click the bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd. I need Tylenol.